Aloha and welcome to Power in Partnership, an online master series where we look at how to rekindle connection, grow conscious partnership, and focus on what matters most. I'm delighted to be your host. My name is Amy Elizabeth Gordon. I'm here in my home office on the big island of Hawaii, and I am honored to welcome our distinguished guest today, Dave Richo. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Rico, like Puerto Rico.
Rico, like Puerto Rico. Okay, great. Dave, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself, if you would, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dave, and I'm a psychotherapist and a writer. I've written a number of self-help books, one of which is How to Be an Adult in Relationships. And I also give retreats, and I teach once a year at Esalen. So I'm glad to be here, and my website is davericho.com, DAVERICHO.
Wonderful. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you for carving out some time on the schedule to be with us today. As we once again bring ourselves back to the moment, as I start each of these intentional interviews, I invite us to just really take a few deep conscious breaths. So if you'd like to lower your gaze or close your eyes, for those of you who are joining us now, just inviting that deep breath in through the nose, breathing in all that has already transpired, and exhaling whatever is not needed in this moment, right here, right now. The next deep breath, inhaling all future thoughts, aspirations, hopes, desires, noticing and letting go. And then our third final conscious breath together this morning is taking in the sweetness of this moment right here, right now. And releasing and letting go. The sweetness of my moment also includes the sound of a wild turkey outside, so we may get to hear some interesting ambient noises. So I invite us to bring our hands together and begin with a bow, Dave, as we honor that space between, that wisdom that we create, that alchemy, and really allowing the head to drop to the heart and tune into our core. Thank you very much. So I would love to offer some sentence stems, which is how I love to begin these interviews. And Dave was one of my daring presenters who didn't want to know the sentence stems ahead of time, which I think is absolutely delightful. We've just kept it very simple and clean. And here we go, the fresh, unprepared for take, which is the first sentence stem, Dave, is, as I'm sitting here, I'm experiencing.
Excitement about this interview, and feels like a real thrill to be talking to somebody who's in Hawaii. Because I visited there and I really love it.
Great. So what I hear you saying is you're excited, you're looking forward to this interview, and also that thrill of talking with me being here. And I think we forgot to say you're in California, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the bridge of connection across the miles. And yes, it is exciting for me to be here. I every day wake up, wow, I'm here. Wow, I'm here. It's a very
you're lucky.
Amazing place. So thank you for that. And the next sentence stem really gets looking forward. So where I'd like to be at the end of my life, at the end of my career, whichever resonates more with you. How would you respond to that?
I would like to be someone who has finally settled into the okayness of being just who I am. And I could start doing that right this minute. But I haven't been very good at it, so I want to get to that point by the end.
Yeah. So what I hear is that desire, that intention of being okay with who you are, just in this moment, and noticing you could even do that right now. So I'm curious, that brings up another sentence stem of one obstacle that gets in the way of getting where I want to go. How would you respond to that?
The main obstacle is fear and inhibition, which still holds me back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can see that in many areas of life.
Yeah. So just really noticing the binds, the grasp of fear and inhibition, and how that plays out in many aspects of your life that prevents you from getting to that place you want to be, of just being okay with who you are. Yeah. Am I getting you?
Yes.
Is there more about that for now?
No.
Okay. Well, one thing, we'll look at the other side. So we've noticed the obstacle, and then, if you will, the antidote. So one thing I can do to help get me there, to that place of okayness. How would you respond to that?
I can act as if these fears that come up don't have to stop me from doing what I want to do, or push me into doing what I don't want to do.
Yeah. So I've often heard that referred to as fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
The act as if, to move forward and do those things you may want to do, or not be. I really heard the piece also there of not being pushed into things you don't want to do. Am I getting it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is there more about that?
Well, it's the two directions that fear pushes us. I mean, it pushes us toward or away. And then we want to be like Goldilocks, right in the middle, where it's just right, where I'm standing there holding the fear, but I'm no longer acting on it in either direction.
Right. Beautiful image. One thing that really drew me to your work and to asking you to join us in this PIP, this Power in Partnership presentation, is your idea of the, you were talking about trust, I believe, and and I hear that also plays with fear, that it can push us towards something we don't want, or away from something we're fearful of, and we want to be in that moment. So since I've already introduced the other, would you take a moment to share what I'm gesticulating about?
Yeah, you're referring to the compass of trust, which I talk about in my book called Daring to Trust. It's about how in relationships you can build trust, and if trust has been broken, how you can rebuild it. And I try to show that relationships are certainly based on trust, but they work best when each adult trusts himself or herself to receive the trustworthiness when it happens from the other, with gratitude and appreciation. Or if the trustworthiness is broken or isn't there, that we find a way to handle it without having to retaliate against the other. So I begin there with, yes, the relationship is based on trust, but since one of the givens of life is that people are not always trustworthy, it can't be based on trusting the partner unconditionally. It can only be based on trusting the partner when the evidence shows that he is trustworthy. So that switches the first direction of trust to yourself. I trust myself to continually declare my level of trust. And if anything is worrying me, I'm willing to speak up and say something about it. And overall, I want to trust myself to receive the trustworthiness and to deal with the untrustworthiness. So then this led me to the idea of a compass of trust, north, south, east, west. So horizontally, east, west. East is I trust myself. West is I trust others. So that's the human level, shall we say. then north, above us, I trust a higher power than my own ego, which could be God, could be Buddha nature, could be universe, whatever works for you as higher power than yourself. And then south is trusting the ground that we walk on, trusting reality itself. I trust that whatever happens will give me an opportunity to love more and fear less. I can trust that the events don't have to be just events that hurt, repulse, or attract me. But when I let go of all of that, which is our Buddhist path, then I take what happens as a message or a calling or an opportunity to show more loving kindness, to free myself from inhibition. So I trust myself east, I trust others west, I trust higher power north, I trust reality itself, that which happens, the givens of life, southerly direction. And it just helps you, picturing that compass, just helps you realize that you have many more resources when it comes to trust than just the other person.
Absolutely. And if I could highlight that ability to feel more resourced. And when I discovered your compass there, for me, I'm a visual learner. I love to picture these concepts because I get them on an intellectual level, but how do I bring it into my reality that can really help guide me in my thoughts, my feelings, my deeds, my words? And this helps so much. And this is coming from, and I'll self-disclose here, I have over 23 years of being in recovery from alcoholism. And very much a part of that spiritual path for me has been believing in a higher power. I have over 2 decades as a practicing Buddhist, taking refuge in the Buddhist path. So, I could get caught up in how those might counter each other out. And it's like, no, let go. There's this compass. There's this multi-directional dimensionality of, I have trust in myself, especially being sober and remembering what I did yesterday and being a sober woman of integrity. I have that trust. And trust in other, that's how I wake up every day and engage with the world. When I walk through that door and life starts, I have that. I have a trust in a higher power. For me, the challenge has been the southerly direction, the trusting in the reality of this experience. And I'll share this with you, Dave. Your work has had a profound impact on me just in the last 5 days since I discovered it. And I get what we call the chicken skin. That's what we call it here, because that's missing. And so I often feel ungrounded. I often feel doubtful. I often feel swayed on this roller coaster of, this presenter was going to come and we did a wonderful interview, but this might not work out because of X, Y, and Z, or this person's supposed to show up but they're sick. And this morning I found myself sharing with my beloved husband and my children at breakfast that I'm no longer on that roller coaster of, who are my presenters? Because this is a huge push for me. It's my first launch. I've never done anything like this. As you said earlier, walking through that fear and inhibition, I'm like doing it.
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
Thank you. I'm witnessing the roller coaster of how's it going to go? How's it going to go? And today I found myself watching the roller coaster instead of being part of it. And so really feeling that southerly direction of trusting the ground we walk on, if I heard you correctly. Am I getting the compass?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that. And then to bring
it comes down to changing the way you interpret what happens.
Right.
So you could see it as, these are happenings in my life. This happened to me, that happened to me. These are my circumstances, these are my predicaments. But when you reframe that and say, well, wait a minute, yes, these are my circumstances, predicaments, and events, but all of them are offering an opportunity to be mindful, to show loving kindness, to release myself from fear. These are all, in a way, gifts, graces that help me move more deeply into my practice.
Yes. I
The spiritual practice.
It is a spiritual practice of reframing things. And for me, I think of it within the context of what is the story I'm telling myself about my life right now. And the story was tomorrow I had my son's field trip that I was going with in the morning, and I was already trying to figure out how I could get back to do the noon interview with this person. And it was creating some chaos. And this person sent an email this morning, I've come down with a terrible sickness that's going around. I can't interview tomorrow. And so instead of tuning into the, oh, woe is me, I didn't get this person, it's, oh, I don't have to scramble at the field trip. And it's shifting my perspective. And it's I tell myself is, I'm grateful. I can send her healing vibes. I can come back to that loving kindness and compassion for myself. I'm doing the best I can. She's doing the best she can. And if I can come from that place, I often think of it as, when I come to the kitchen sink and it's full of dirty dishes, I think, oh, I want the kitchen to be clean. But instead, my response, the story I've begun telling myself over these last few years is, oh, there's love notes from all the people in my life that are taking care of themselves and hydrating and getting proper nutrition. And it sounds simplistic, but that's what's, weaving the fabric of my life together with less fear, less inhibition, less distrust, and more of an acceptance. And so I really appreciate that notion you're bringing up of the reframing. Thank you for that.
Good. I'd like to share this little affirmation that I use each morning.
Sure.
That's on this topic. And this is in my book. I say yes to everything that happens to me today as an opportunity to give and receive love and to free myself from fear.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm jotting it down as you speak.
So it's, I say yes to everything that happens to me today as an opportunity. That's what I meant before, like opportunity for practice, to give and receive love and to free myself from fear.
Yes, yes. What particularly jumps out to me, Dave, is that idea of giving and receiving. I think oftentimes, and to bring this into our it's all related to the concept of partnership or relationship, but we often tend to be more of a giver or a receiver. And I to find that balance. So what I would like to offer next as a sentence stem, which also sounds like a question, is what matters most to you, Dave, in terms of that relational field between you and your partner?
I don't have a partner.
Okay.
But like in friendships and
the partner being the other, because I think we're all
any other person.
Yes, exactly. So what matters?
I think it's to show up with integrity and loving kindness. So I'd like to act with integrity toward all beings and include them all in this circle of loving kindness, which, as you know, is an important practice in Buddhism. So that's...
Yeah, and that brings us to the topic. You shared an interesting title for a topic with me in terms of integrity and loving kindness in relationship. Could you say a little more about that?
That is, the integrity part is about ourselves and how we can be honest in all our dealings, be clear about our feelings, and be open to what others are about without being judgmental. And then the loving kindness is has to do with how to show our love to others in ways that create more connectedness, more bondedness, rather than separation or division. And along these lines, I've written up a list of very practical ways to show this, and that's what's on my website, which I'm making part of this program.
Oh,
that
right, the
people
free
can
gift.
access it.
Great.
So that's where I go through the whole, go through many very specific ways that this can happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And just to give us a little taste, a little teaser for that list, and we'll have that free gift information as a link at the bottom of the emails that go out, and we'll get that information to folks. But just as a little taste of that list, what jumps out to you as
Well, the first one on the list is that I can be trusted to keep agreements. That when I make a commitment with someone, I will be faithful to it. And if I fall down in that and I don't wind up being as faithful to my commitment as I can be, that I will apologize and make amends.
mm-hmm.
In fact, using that word amends reminds me that when I originally wrote this list in 1998, I was working with recovering alcoholics, and the list was meant to help them do their fourth step, which is to make an inventory of your, various ways that you have hurt others or
Right.
not shown up for them in a way that has integrity. And so you'll see a lot of that in the list.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate that. I think the word
I learned a lot from the program.
Yeah. I continue to learn a lot from the program, and that sense of being willing to make amends. So much of it is actually leaning in and talking to the person that you've had some transgression with, and setting things right. But I've had many sponsors over the years that have taught me that so much value comes from the living amends, which I hear, the step one that you just shared with us, or the first item on your list is that living amends of, I'm going to be a woman of my word. If I've made a commitment to you, I'm going to suit up and show up and be there. And if I can't, I will apologize, make amends, and set things right. So it's that self-accountability. It's that which makes us be a worthy person in relationship, because
that is a way of showing love.
Right. It is a demonstration of that love. Absolutely. Yeah. Is there more about that?
No, that was that would be a good example.
Yeah, great. Well, anything else about the topic in terms of the intimacy and the loving kindness, the integrity. It's funny, I just used the word intimacy. Integrity and loving kindness in relationship.
Basically, the integrity has to do with building the level of trust. For instance, if you now know that I'm the type of person who does keep agreements, that gives you evidence that you can trust me. If you notice also that when I can't keep an agreement, I do tell you about it, and if I've made some type of error, I am willingly apologize and try to make amends. Now you also know that I'm not in the relationship to salve and advance my ego. I'm willing to let go of my ego so I can build the bond in the relationship. That's what you sound like when you come into a relationship with integrity. You're about how the relationship can work better. You're not about how do I make sure that the other person knows that I'm the big shot, or that I'm always right, or that I am entitled to special treatment, that I'm in control, etc. It would be important in any relationship to examine your agenda.
Mm-hmm.
What am I here to do? Am I here to participate in this enterprise of building a life together with someone else, a life that will be a combination of need fulfillment, joy, and love? Or am I here to get what I can get, and either to be the one in charge or to be the one who's at the beck and call of the other, or to be a parent to the other, or to be a child and have the other be the parent? Any of those agendas would not really get us very far when it comes to maturing.
Right.
And we wouldn't wind up having a very deep relationship.
Right. I appreciate your taking the time to explore that, how to be an adult in a relationship, because I feel that very much speaks to how to grow conscious partnership, which is a huge part of my passion in bringing this together, that relationships require our attention. They require that shift from seeing not what do I need out of this relationship, but what can I give to this relationship so that then I can receive. It's the both and. It's not how do I find the perfect partner, it's how do I become a better partner. I let go of the word perfect there. And I feel that so much of the time we are witnessing, and I've been there myself, those immature relationships of what's in it for me, and a whole lot of ego and a whole lot of imbalance of power. And you really spoke so eloquently to that. I want to highlight that because that's also a primary purpose in my bringing this series together, is to explore what I'm calling a new paradigm of power, but perhaps it's there and it's just a shift in our perspective again, that it's no longer this power defined as control over and or someone then submitting to, but it's more of an equal exchange of energy. And I require it's a prerequisite that we are adult in that exchange, that we have some sense of conscious connection to be able to take care of ourselves, to be able to tend to the emotional landscape of the other. And it's as we often describe, differentiation, that ability to take care of myself and be emotionally connected to you and not cut off or lean too heavily and be dependent on or at the beck and call. And it's a whole new way of picturing relationships. And I've seen it throughout time of, hearing what it was like, seeing what it was like with my parents, their subsequent divorce, because my mother wanted to work outside of the home, and, just that shift in power. And my husband's very much been hands-on with raising our kids. And my mother continues to say how blessed I am, how grateful she is that I have someone that's a willing participant in that. And I count my blessings every day. I feel rich beyond measure in that sense of growing that conscious connection, growing that ability to look at power as a network.
Shared resource.
Yeah, exactly. Shared resources.
Instead of one top down.
Exactly. Instead of top down. Yes. I heard a quote the other day that the future of power is in the well-trodden paths to our neighbors' doors. Those networks of how do we help each other out, and not just someone, ruling over us in that regard. So I think that that's important. And I really appreciate, Dave, how you keep bringing up this sense of being resourced. I'm wondering if you could say a little bit more about that. What does one adult person look like who's resourced, if you will?
I mean, being able to access our inner resources, and those would include the ability to soothe ourselves when we're in a stressful situation, the ability to address our psychological issues and try to resolve them, the ability to ask for help when we can't do things ourselves to get our life back on track. So that's what I mean by inner resources, and I think everybody has them. You're reminding me of a quotation from the book called Alcoholics Anonymous, which I would like to share because I consider it very profound. With few exceptions, our members, in other words, the members of Alcoholics Anonymous, with few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource, which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. So the most important inner resource, and the one we are not suspecting is there, is the God within, the higher power within, something that's greater than themselves. But he uses the word inner. So it's not beyond ourselves, it's within ourselves. I consider this very profound.
Yeah.
And that to me would be one of the central inner resources that we don't even notice.
Right, right.
And it shows itself in the form of grace, the gift dimension of life. Something that kicks in and helps us beyond our own efforts.
Yeah.
And not based on our efforts.
I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You described grace as the fifth dimension of life?
No, the gift dimension.
Gift dimension.
G-I-F-T.
Great. I'm glad I clarified that.
Yeah, like you feel like, I was given the gift of this particular talent. I was born with a particular talent. We all are aware of that. Then we put in effort, practice, and try to, use our gift best way we can. But along the way, we notice that we're getting help from some resource that we're not in control of or in charge of, or nor does it kick in only when we want it to. It just happens in whatever way it needs to happen. It's beyond our control.
Exactly. And I appreciate the image of the inner resource and being able to tap into it. I feel it is readily accessible, but sometimes when I have a moment of solitude or in my morning yoga and meditation practice, that moment to tap back into it, I feel that refreshment. I feel that inner wellspring, if you will. And it reminds me of, and I'm delighted that if I could for a few moments ask you about a Carl Jung story that I've heard, because I know that you've studied a lot of Jungian work as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Rainmaker. Are you familiar with the Rainmaker? It's
No.
As I've heard it, Carl Jung used to love to tell this story, and whenever he'd gather with his friends and associates, they'd say, please tell us the story of the Rainmaker. And my abbreviated version of it is that there was a village in the East that was devastated by drought, and the animals were dying, the crops were dying, people were suffering. There was not enough sustenance to go around. And then a great master came, and he came from the Far East because, of course, right, all of our great masters come from the Far East. And he comes in and And the community comes together and they said, please help us, we're suffering. He says, just give me a little hut. Give me a little hut where I can go in and be okay in my quiet with myself. And again, these are my words of how I remember this story. And the master goes into the hut and he takes the time to quiet himself, to center himself. And I would imagine to tap into that inner resource that we were just speaking of.
Mm-hmm.
And to, as Carl Jung talked about, the Tao, the balance, that where there is this, this drought around, that he was able to bring in the rain, and the rains came. And the crops started to grow, the animals were nourished, the people were rehydrated and re-enlivened. And it was from this master taking time in the hut to tap in and create that balance. And when that was there, that ripple effect of the balance in the community. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about that story.
I have never heard that, so thank you for telling it.
Oh, great. Well,
and you know, it seems to show that our resources, it also shows our resources are not meant for ourselves alone,
right,
but to be of help to the world.
Right, right. And that is a beautiful place for us to wrap up our interview, because that is what inspires me to do this work. It's not just so I can gain more knowledge or have a better relationship with my own beloveds and family, but to ripple effect out in a way where I can be a force for good, and I can have that profound influence on our world, which, you know, we desperately need to help, in my opinion.
It sounds like you are doing that, and good luck with doing it more.
Yeah, changing the world one relationship at a time. So
yeah,
thank you for your time. I would love to finalize our interview with the final sentence stem, one thing I appreciate. How would you respond to that, Dave?
One thing I appreciate is the fact that I can be here right now with you and really feel present with you and with the audience that I don't see. And I'm thankful that I'm able to share the way I do. It doesn't come from me alone. It comes from all the mentors and bodhisattvas and guardian angels that have helped me over the years. So thank you for this opportunity.
You are so welcome. And I too share that appreciation. I really just want to highlight how simple and graceful and easy that you've helped this interview process be for me, with the immediate response to yes to the email, the quick phone call of yes, let's do this, the setting up a time, keeping your commitment, you know, following that first item on your list of really being willing to give and receive in this way. And I appreciate being able to share with you throughout. I felt an openness to have greater self-disclosure and share ideas with you in that equal exchange. So to me, this is that power in partnership. And I look forward to, you know, reaching more people and perhaps future collaboration with you. We'll see where this goes. The future is unknown, but in this moment, I too have gratitude for what we've shared today. And you've already talked a little about the free gift that will be linked below, and we can end with a bow.
Okay, thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. Mahalo.